Hello traders, welcome to the EURUSD weekly review for November 8th to 12th. And a pretty decent week, about 11R, 11 to 12R. And that was with 2 days with no trades. We had a couple days of really low volatility. But overall, volatility has been on the upswing. That's good. That typically tends to correlate to more trades and more profits. But this week we had 2 days that were really dead, a couple days that were really good and had some really good opportunity. So we'll go through those charts. Potential for the week. This was based on 1 hour and 18 minutes of trading at a couple really short days this week. So 11.6R from what I saw. Plus on Thursday, right after I finished, there was one shortly after I finished and then another one just a little bit after. So another potential 5R there on a couple nice setups. Win rate was a little bit higher than usual this week because there weren't that many trades, and the trades that did take place were on those bigger movement days. I find trading is a little bit easier on bigger movement days. Not always, but as a general tendency. Reward to risk, also a little lopsided because we only had 2 losses and one was a partial. So that'll skew it a little bit. The totals, pretty much all rounded tops and bottoms this week. These are my main focus, and so when I do go through the charts, there may have been some of the other double pumps or snapback strategies. Even though I may not always be looking for them, I'm pretty good at picking them out. And yeah, I didn't see any of those. Double pumps had the one partial loss. So let's get to some charts. November 8th was a pretty good day. And started off with this is very small rounded top. But we can already see this trend was losing momentum to begin with. We had this nice rally up into here, this really strong one. This one, the next one, we make a little bit of progress up. Then this one, we're just kind of moving up, but we don't really get to a new high. Price pulls back, tries to make a new high, just barely does, falls off, get this nice little consolidation here. And no idea that this was going to fall off a cliff like it did, but still a little rounded top to trade. Here, a little bit of wonky price action, got into a double pump. So we can see gets back up to the prior high, just barely clips it out there, which is sometimes what I like to see, that little false breakout out the top when we're going short. Good entry and almost came back, stopped out. And then we had this really sharp drop. And within, about 15, 20, 30 seconds, this thing had dropped almost to the target and then had come all the way back. And, in hindsight, I'm thinking, I should have, closed it out when it got really close. But we were still probably like half a pip away. It wasn't like right at it. And this came back so quick that basically all I had time to do was kind of move my stop loss down to just above this red bar, because really, after it's almost hit the target, there's no way it should be coming all the way back up here. Maybe it bounces up here and then falls again, but if it comes all the way back, then anyone who went short in here is trapped, and there's a good chance it could get up to the stop loss. So managed to shave that one down a little bit. Then an interesting thing happens, because we just had this big drop and then a big shift up. And so we had this big rounded bottom pattern. We had the drop, little pullback, another drop, sharp reversal to the upside. Now we're in this big cup and handle. And then we can also kind of look at where's the opportunity. Is a little one going to form? And after this stalled out above this swing high, this seemed like an okay entry point, but really, you could have got in here based on the bigger one, and I have mentioned before, I don't really like trading the bigger patterns unless they're very clean. The only thing that wasn't clean in here was this pullback. We can see we have multiple little waves, but this drop one price bar, two price bars, this move up, one, two price bars, this one, just all in one direction. So this overall pattern was pretty, what I like to call clean, meaning each wave was just one wave, fairly simple. It wasn't like a whole bunch of zigzaggy things. When you start trading patterns where every wave is a zigzag, it becomes much more problematic to trade it. Whereas when you just have a move down, a move up, a move down, a move up, a move down, each one of these waves does not have, multiple things going on. It's just a clean wave, I call it. So this was a clean wave, this was a clean wave, this was a clean wave, this was a clean wave. So we pretty much had all clean waves except for one. And so this was a potential area. I waited a little bit. We got this little pause here. Seemed like an okay entry point. Could have also entered up here even. Then, oh yes, this little rounded bottom here. So nothing really to get into here. But we have this little rounded bottom here. Pushes up, gets above this prior swing high. So we have that reversal to the upside. And we just kind of paused there. We didn't really get the pullback. But either way, even if we would have, I probably would have got in down here. So either way, I was basically hooped on this one, taking a loss. I got in, stopped out. Then we have another one. I just realized that you may not be able to see the side of my chart. And then, yeah, really nice movement in here to form another rounded bottom. You can see, try to push lower, make the higher swing high right here from this high up to this high. Little pause, breakout. And we'd had some choppiness, so I was willing to get out of this if the price reversed near my target. Maybe also a little bit gun shy after this happening to me once. So I was just moving my stop loss up to the target, but it just kept running. And I really should have kept it going because that would have been a huge trade if I had kept doing that all the way up here. Probably that was a 2.5, probably at least a double, probably 5-hour trade by the time it got up to here. Just adjust this screen a little bit. Okay, next one. No trades on this day. We had some Powell speaking, and usually it's not that I avoid trading during this time, but I had a couple other things to do, and sometimes something can be said by, like a Fed chairman, like in this case, or, when someone else really prominent in the financial community is speaking, and it can cause some wonky movements. And I have no idea if these were related to things that he said. I'm not watching the speech. I don't care. But it does look like maybe a few things he said affected the market. So it's one of those ones, if you want to kind of maybe ease off or maybe go down to half position sizes or something like that, that's always an option. I had a couple other things to do anyway, so I was more than happy to see if something happened in the first half hour here. It didn't. And I didn't see anything that really would have caught my eye anyway. This day did alert me to something, though. I'm always on the lookout just for, little patterns that I notice. And I didn't go through any of the other charts this week to see if it occurred again, but I noticed this little... I really like this long entry, and I wanted to take it, but yeah, it didn't quite fit in anything I have in the trading plan, so it was good for me to stay out. But at the same time, just looking back on the chart, there wasn't anything going on in here that I was interested in. So I'm looking back and I noticed that this little, thrust in the trending direction, pull back, and then, this very kind of weak second wave of the pullback, I guess we could say. So we're trending and then we have a very weak second wave down of the pullback. And this kind of happened over here too. We have the first drop, second, and then the second drop really doesn't make any progress against that trend. Could have been a good entry point right there. Where did it happen again? First drop, second drop, barely any progress. Could have entered there. Going the other way, we have this really big drop. We have the first pullback, second pullback. This one doesn't even make it to the highs. So a little bit different pattern there, but similar. And so it just kind of reminded me, like, there's always the option to add in some sort of trending strategy, because right now, the way the trading plan is set up, I do miss these opportunities sometimes where the price is just running, and if it doesn't form a double pump or a snapback or give us a pullback with a rounded bottom, we're missing out. And that's fine. The overall results are good, but you can always look for other things to add in. I do have some trending strategies I've used in the past, and so I'll always just kind of watch. And it's not a matter of just like, okay, that's a nice pattern, I'm going to throw it into the trading plan. It does take a little bit of work to go back and go through charts and see how does this mix with the other strategies, because you never know. You might have a conflict or something like that where it's kind of messing with another strategy, and all of a sudden you're confused and don't know what to do. So it's not a matter of just like throwing it in there. It does take some work and testing to go through, see how it would perform in alignment with some of the other strategies. But just something I noticed on this particular day. And okay, on to Wednesday. Some pretty big movement off the CPP number. Then I didn't really see anything in here. And yeah, so this one was the first one that I saw that caught my eye. And we have this big move up, pullback. The next wave, much smaller, doesn't make much progress. Really hard shift to the downside below this swing low. And pretty clean pullback. And the short right there. This one got interesting though. It drops back to the prior low, comes back up. So no problem yet. Yeah, we almost got stopped out, but we have no real reason to get out yet. We haven't had any reversal to the upside. Drops again, barely makes progress. When something barely makes progress, you always want to be thinking rounded top, rounded bottom, or potentially double pump, depending on the scenario. Barely makes progress. We have a move back up, gets back to this high that we just took. So that is a reversal higher. It doesn't mean we're, instantly jumping out of our trade. It just means this thing now has to drop basically to our target or make a lower swing low at minimum, because this has now shifted our bias to the upside again. So we've had a reversal higher, which means once this starts dropping, it thankfully did very quickly, and basically we're using the aggressive trailing stop loss method. Like, this thing either has to make a new low, which then reverses our bias back to the downside, or we have to get out. And so we have this big green bar, and basically as soon as the high of that green bar is taken out, the trailing stop loss is sitting there, trailed above the high of the bars. So that one's out. Now, remember I just said once we have this kind of scenario where we're barely making progress in one direction, we had a reversal in the opposite direction, this sets up a potential rounded bottom. And we can see it with this reversal higher. So move down, reversal back up, drop. This is a little choppy in here, but we get this nice small candle in here, transition to the upside. And I don't know if anyone who sent me their charts traded this. This was, a pretty sharp move up into the high, but big decline here, and pretty wonky movement in here for, we don't really have a pullback. The bars are just kind of keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, trending down. So tough to get in here. Thursday was the big opportunity day of the week. If you avoided the junk in here, that was good, and quite a few people sent me charts this day, and they did manage to avoid all this stuff, which was pretty impressive, because that choppy movement can lure people in. But if you look at the things, we didn't get any signals. We didn't get a shift down here. Not a good short by the time this does make. So this was our move up, pull back, move up, pull back. So the pullback occurs on a green bar, which is a little bit weird because it fell and then bounced within the same bar. But we can see we have a move up and then a drop within these two little green candles here. So that's our low point. And on this first drop, it doesn't get below it. And it's only on the third drop, second drop below it, that we get below this prior swing low, so we would have been entering over here. I made a video on this with the rounded top variation, and this is a lower probability trade. We do not ideally want to be entering once the price has already made 3, entering on the third wave in a trending direction. We prefer 2 when we can get it. And also, just some choppier movement here. Run up here, and then we can just see the price just can't make any progress, just keeps rounding off. But we haven't made any lower swing lows yet until here. We drop below this swing low here. So we can see from here to here, we make lower swing low, little pause, drop off. A little bit of a weird one here in terms of how this accelerated. So I don't like acceleration into a high. This move up is basically the same as this move up. So we haven't lost any steam. The buyers are still full charge. The only thing that makes this an interesting one is that we spiked above this swing high. Everyone gets stopped out. And then we crash below it. And then we have a move up and a drop within the old range. There's also a video on that, on the breakouts, false breakout, magnet areas in the weekly reviews. I'll also put those, I'm going to put those videos inside the course because they're important. They got a few, little things that might enhance the course a little bit. So I'll add those videos into the course as well so that they're there and you know where the resources are. The course, the EURUSD day trading course, you can find the link there. And so overall, this was a good pattern to trade because we had the added benefit of the false breakout. So not a great thing that this moved up, but in my view, it's offset by the big false breakout to the upside. Then we had this rounded bottom here, snaps up, higher swing high, breaks higher. And then again, this one, not a great pattern, but we have the false breakout again. Shift to the downside here, no opportunity to get short here. This one makes it all the way to the swing high, so if you didn't get this one, no worries. And I wasn't trading at this time, so I don't even know if I would have ended up in it. But we just get to that swing high again, and then we have this turnover, nice small stop loss there. And it's the only reason this would be a potential trade is because of this false breakout area. We're clearing these highs. The price is trying to get above it. It can't gain any traction, and the entry occurs back inside the old range. And finally, Friday, there were no real opportunities. So, nothing I saw that I really liked. Here, this was an area to really avoid. We had, in the last 2 hours, once we got into this area, 7 to 5, we are in a 10 pip or even less than 10 pips of movement. That's a pretty much no trade zone. Once we're in that 10 to 15 pips, it's kind of very marginal. Once we're over 15 pips, we can let ourselves, trade a little bit more without thinking about it quite as much. But when we're in that 10 pip area over 2 hours, that is really low volatility. So this was an area to pretty much stay out because of that. So that's discussed in the course. And then we start to see a little bit more here. No real trade setups though. And I had to go. I had a personal training appointment, but I said setting up for a nice long if we get a swing inside. And it would have been, I wasn't around when this happened, but right at 8 o'clock when news came out, we have this potential rounded bottom and pretty much a swing low inside the old range. We tried to break out, couldn't, and now we're moving more inside the old range. So these were, potential opportunities to get long. This one you would have had to get out before news, so that one wouldn't have really worked out, or you would have had to get out probably flat or maybe with a little bit of profit depending on when exactly you got out. And yeah, after news came out, I don't know, based on how this green bar unfolded, did it move really quick? Did it, pause there for a little while and then go? There was the opportunity to potentially get in here. And that'd be more based on the false breakout scenario combined with a little bit of rounded bottom in here. So that's the overall. Those are the charts and trades for the week as I saw them. You can always, of course, post comments if you saw anything differently. And focus for this week, I was reading a book. I'll have to throw it in the comments. But it got me thinking about how I spend money, how I perceive value, things like that. And I've always just loved eating out and ordering in, and that's fine. I enjoy it. It's something I've just really enjoyed doing. But also I'm training 3 to 4 times a week with a personal trainer, and I'm like, do these things really align? Eating out every night and then also training 4 days a week, it's a little counterproductive. So I was just thinking about how to change the mindset on those types of things to move away from the eating out because it no longer really serves me. And then also thinking about, okay, that's going to save, for me, like I said, we eat out quite a bit. It's probably a couple grand a month. Where can that go? And it was just fun to think about how, because if you don't really make any changes or you don't come up with some alternatives, it's easy just to fall back into the old habit. So I was like, okay, well, where could I go? What would sort of take the place of, the social niceties of eating out and, going out? Is there something else that would give me as much satisfaction? So I was thinking about some alternative investments and what I could use with that money with. And yeah, I could just plunk it in my entire retirement account, but that's okay, but kind of boring. And so I'd written this article on alternative investments, and I really enjoy not collecting per se just for itself, but collecting certain things. And so I've picked up a few comics, and I've always had trading cards, and so I figured these are some things that I have an interest in, and it's just they do provide some value to my life. They also provide monetary value in that they are investments. And so it's just something to think about. What do you spend money on that no longer serves you, but maybe is just an old habit? And what else could you do with it? What could you do with it that serves you? So that was my thought for the week. And that's your weekly review. Until next time, happy trading.